I was talking to someone close to me the other day, and we were talking about God and where we see God the most easily and where it's really hard to see Him. And they said something that I hear time and time and time again from people who say they have a strong relationship with God, and from people yet to get to know God, and even from people who would say they never even want to know God, even if He's there. They all seem to say this: I was hurting, and where was God? Where was God? It's a really valid question, isn't it? If God presents Himself, or at least if Christians present Him as this all-loving, all-powerful, all-good, all-knowing being, then when life really sucks and He has the power to change it, well, where is He? Is He asleep? Is He too busy? Does He even care? And the people who say these things to me, like my close friend said, they're not talking about little things that heap up with no parking spaces, or did you get that promotion, or it rained on your wedding day. You know, they're talking about things that really hurt. Why didn't you stop that person hurting me like that? Why didn't you stop me feeling this way about myself? Why can't you take away my pain? When I was working out God for myself in my early 20s, I had decided already as a teenager that God really was worth fighting for, but I hadn't got the whole Jesus part in my head yet. One of my friends at the time was really, really angry with God. I mean, she said she didn't believe in God, but actually it always came out as like this fierce anger against Him. And the closer I got to have God as part of my life, the more angry she seemed to get, particularly at me. So one day I was about to leave to cycle to a church service 5 miles away in the Welsh rain. It was very cold and very wet. She turned to me and she said, "You know, if God loved you, He would stop the rain." And it fired something up inside me, and I said, without even really having to think about it, I said, "No, you're wrong. If I love God, I won't care it's raining." And I put on my shoes and I zipped up my almost waterproof coat, and I cycled 5 miles down a hill, sat steaming through the service, and then I cycled 5 miles all the way back again. And I got this passion, this hope, this fire in my heart. It felt like, you say what you want to, I know that God loves me. I used to be a youth worker, and one of the young men I had the honour of working with had this tragic loss one summer. His brother needlessly died on holiday in an accident, and the family had to bring him home. It was really messy and it was difficult, and they were a well-known family, and he was in the public eye all the time. And this young man, he held on to God with everything he had, and he even helped another friend who was grieving for someone else. Together, those two, they prayed, they talked, they laughed, they cried, and they opened up the door to let Jesus come and just sit with them and heal them. It was a humbling experience to watch. I know more than a few beautiful, strong women who have lived through attacks from men in the street and abuse from family members, betrayal and control, sometimes all of it. And instead of throwing God away, they've opened themselves up to Him, and in their weakness, they've found a strength that's beyond their human capacity. Not through talking, although they have talked, not through understanding, although they have asked lots of questions, not through fighting, although they have had to fight for every shred of self-confidence and humanity that they're rebuilding in themselves, but through the quiet, consistent, healing, powerful presence of God with them. So often we look at the horror of the world around us and we ask where God is, and the answer is that He's shouting out to us. He is calling back to us, "I'm here. I'm here in the grime and the rubble. I'm here in the chains and the distress. I'm here wiping up the tears and sitting next to this little girl who's forgotten who I made her to be. One day Jesus saw the crowds and he went up on a mountainside and he sat down and his disciples came around and he began to teach them all. He said something like this: "You're blessed when your spirit feels broken, not invulnerable. It's then that the whole kingdom of heaven is at your fingertips. You're blessed when you're mourning a loved one, not when you coldly refuse to love. I will be there to comfort you. The humble are blessed, not the proud. The humble will inherit the whole earth. When you feel that hunger and that thirst to live right, rather than an apathy or indifference, that hunger and that thirst will be filled. When you show others mercy instead of revenge, I'll show it back to you. And the cleaner and clearer you keep your motives, the more I will show of God Himself to you. You're blessed when you work to bring about peace. People will nickname you God's children. And you're blessed when you're victimized because you're living according to God's culture here on earth now. Well, get ready, because I will hand you the whole kingdom of heaven." If Jesus can say this, the one who was rejected by the people who were meant to accept him, continually not recognizing who he was, and he was spoken down to and betrayed and mocked and abandoned and beaten and hung naked and left to die, if he can say that, there's got to be something powerful in it. Maybe he's not going to stop the rain when I cycle to church. Maybe he's right there, getting wet with me, loving the feeling of nature on his face. Maybe he's also broken and weeping alongside us as we mourn for our brothers, our nephews, our mums and dads. Maybe he's sitting late at night, right there next to our beds, holding us like we want to be held by them. Maybe in the midst of the consistent darkness of abuse, he is the voice whispering against the lies and the invisible prison bars of self-hatred and loathing. Maybe he's whispering again and again, "You are not what that person says you are. You are strong enough to get out of this. I'm here for you. I'm here with you." Jesus' view of suffering and pain and of hardship is that when we encounter it, God also encounters it. He feels it too. A God who suffers alongside us, who in fact is even more hurt and broken than we could possibly know. He's not like Zeus or a God who's emotionally neutral and distant. He's a God living in the mess right alongside us. He's crying deep, guttural cries, and he's waiting to bring us his faithful, healing, wholesome presence. Open the eyes of our hearts, God. We want to see you. Open our ears to hear you speak, especially when the noise seems too loud. Turn our stone hearts into flesh again and pump your life through us. Hold us, Jesus. Hold us.